Hi guys, Joe here. As you can see by the title of the video, you're probably wondering, you're probably looking for your first gun or your first home invasion defensive weapon. Your first gun. By the title of the video, you can tell that this is a video about what should your first gun be and what to expect. So usually when people buy their first gun, they're not exactly... usually, I mean, it depends. You can buy a gun at any age, but usually when you buy your first gun, you're usually maybe in your 20s. I don't know a lot of gun advocates that are in their 40s or 50s. They're like, yeah, I just bought my first gun. You know, usually when you're buying your first gun, you're usually probably on the younger side, so you're probably not making too much. Maybe you are. Maybe you're the 1% that makes a bunch of money, and you can afford any gun, and so you do. And so you can buy anything you want because you have all that money at a very young age. But if you're like the rest of us, where you make money, but you're not super rich, your first gun, what should it be and what you should expect? So the first thing you need to do if you're wanting to be serious about buying a firearm is, I mean, you got to be the age. You can be given handguns. You can own a handgun as long as you're 18. You just cannot buy a handgun from a licensed dealer until you're 21. Now you can buy handguns when you're 18 from like neighbors or civilians. Those are called private sellers. And also like auctions, I think you can buy from at 18. But to buy from a regular gun shop that is an FFL licensed dealership, gun dealer, you have to be 21 in Indiana, in the state of Indiana, in the United States. So now, your first gun, what would I recommend? And your budget. Real good quality handguns. The prices always differ, but usually 400. Usually I'd say starting 500, 400 to even 1,000 handguns are really good. I'd say you start getting into good handguns when they start costing 400 to 500 and then upwards from there. Now you can buy used handguns that are really good name brand, like Glock, Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, things of that nature. You can buy handguns that are used that are in pretty good condition for like 200, 300. But usually if you're wanting to buy a good handgun, like say a Glock, even used, that'll run you still probably $400 for a used Glock. They are not cheap by any means. I'm buying my first handgun soon. It'll be about $550. It's a Glock 19 with a bunch of custom stuff on it. I'm getting it from a guy. He's real nice. So I'd say that the first thing you need to settle for is a pretty good chunk of money for a good handgun, because if you're buying it for self-defense, it's your life. We're not talking, I mean, if you're buying it for fun to shoot around, or you have a YouTube channel like I do, and you want to review guns, like you're a gun advocate and you review from all the way from cheap to expensive guns, if that's something you do, then buy cheap guns and review them. I mean, there's different reasons people buy guns. Maybe people buy guns just because they want to have every gun in the world, so they buy the cheapest guns and stuff because you have to, obviously, to complete that. But if you're doing something for self-defense, I wouldn't buy a gun that's under, I'd say the lowest, $350. I mean, there are guns that are pretty reliable and whatnot at low prices, but it depends. So let's start with like what people call the worst handgun you can buy is a high point. H-I and then point. High point, like high. So a high point handgun, I think they have a 45, I don't know, but I know they have a 9mm. Apparently people say high point handguns are known to break. They break easily. They're not really reliable. They're cheaply made. They've got a lot of issues with them. That's kind of the basis of what people say about them. Now, from watching a YouTuber named Kentucky Ballistics do a damage and stress test on a high point, it would not stop firing and didn't jam once in the video. He ran over it with his truck. He threw it in water. He, I think, who else did it? He's another popular gun YouTuber. I forget his name. Something range. I don't know. I don't know. But Kentucky Ballistics did a high point stress test on a handgun. Ran over it with his truck, threw it in water, just hit it with a samurai sword, cut it up with a chainsaw, not cut it up into pieces, but got some good nasty slices taken out of it, still function. Now, eventually it stopped working because that's what happens, but it goes to show that if you treat a high point pistol with care and whatnot, it works flawlessly. And in his video, it never jammed, no problems besides just tearing it up. Didn't jam, nothing like that. So I'd say reliability is really an opinion and how you treat your own gun or the guns you get, because if you don't clean them, you don't take care of them, you smack them around, you don't handle them with care, the life of the gun is going to diminish faster than if you really took care of it. Now, high points, I'd say if you really have no other option and you live in a bad place or you just want something, you don't have a lot of money and you want to start out, I'd say a high point, it shoots. That's the good thing. And, you really need 1 or 2 rounds to hit the intruder or whatever. Maybe if there's 2 or 3 of them, you're going to need more. But I've seen the high point handgun videos that I've watched. They've done nothing but function. I have not seen a jam. I've seen a GIF of it break, but I'm pretty sure that was because of other means. But all the high point handgun videos that I've watched on YouTube, they fire. So if that's something that you're looking at, I spoke to a guy at a store near Columbus, Indiana, the store that sells firearms, and my cousin asked if he would buy a high point. He asked the seller that, and he said, I would not waste your money on it. But if you have no other choice, it's what you got to do. Now, the best gun for self-defense and home defense, I say, would be Glocks. And there are a bunch, there are a ton. If they're built in good quality and they're high quality and they're built right and they function, they don't jam, and they do their job, that's what matters. So I'd say things like 1911s, made by whoever. Keltec makes pretty good guns. M&P, there's an M&P Compact 22 that's even good for self-defense. And a lot of people say that 22s aren't super deadly. I say they are. If you're shooting someone 3 or 4 times with a 22, they're going to go down. But Glocks, 1911s, in any brand, 1911s are usually reliable, made by anyone. There are a few that maybe you shouldn't get, but 45 ACP 1911s and Glocks, chambered in 9mm, I really, really do enjoy. I've shot many Glocks, and they are fun. There's a baby crying in the background. But, Glocks, 1911s, 6 hours. There are just so many things that you can buy. So I'd say the first one, maybe the first that you should get something compact if you want. You can get something big if you want. It just depends on you, your circumstances, and what's going on. I like Glocks. A lot of people say they're ugly, or at least a YouTuber named T-Rex Arms said he thinks they're kind of ugly, but he says they are one of the most reliable and functional guns on the market, handguns on the market, and I agree with him. Not with the ugly part. I don't think Glocks are ugly. I think they're actually pretty aesthetically pleasing to the eye. But you want something that reflects the price. So if you're paying $400, $500, $600, $700, up to $1,000 for a handgun, and it doesn't jam, doesn't mess up, doesn't break, it has a nice tight trigger, things of that nature, gets the rounds fed through, that's what matters. And accuracy is another thing, but yet again, if you're shooting someone from 3 to 4 feet away, you're really not going to miss. You can. I've never shot anyone before, so I wouldn't know the stress levels of that and how that pertains to how well you act in a situation like that. But yeah, so go with something like $400 to $600 if you can. That's a good starting point. And if you absolutely have to, buy the cheapest handgun you can. I know my cousin bought a $99, it's a 22 revolver, and we bought it at Parabellum Firearms here in Avon, Indiana. I live in Danville, but in Avon, Indiana, he bought it at Parabellum's for $99 with a holster. It was like $125, or a case for it. And it does not jam. It does its job. Now, $99, why? Is because it's old. There's a big chip in the handle, but it does its job and it's accurate. I think if you can, even if it's really low in price and it doesn't jam, it does its job and it's it functions and it'll last you a long time, buy it. There are a lot of people that say you pay for what you get, but sometimes you can sneak in between the linings and find something really cheap that is really affordable. Like, I've seen the High Point stress test, like I said, and it did nothing but fire. Now, sometimes the slide didn't want to go back, like it looked a little rigid, but it still fired. And if that's something you have to do, then do it. Like I said, it was that handgun was $99. Didn't even reach 3 digits in price. It was $99 for this 22 revolver that they said Indiana State Troopers used to use. It was a little 22, holds 9 rounds, I think. And it shoots. I never once saw it jam. Not once. And it was accurate, and it'd be lethal if that's something that you want for protection. Now, reliability also goes long-term too. Meaning that however long you have it, the more you have it, the more you shoot it, the more of a chance there is for it to jam and whatnot. Now, before I close out this video, I want to go into rounds, the best rounds I think for self-defense. 22s are great. They're probably the best in terms of lethality because unlike most rounds, they don't tend to pass through. They don't tend to have an exit point. If you shoot someone here, 22s, they bounce around a lot. So if you shoot someone, it won't go through, most likely, depending on the 22, depending on the round you get. But it'll bounce around and hit organs, bounce off bones, crack ribs. That's what makes 22s really lethal, is that they don't have an exit point. They usually tend to bounce around because of they're not super fast traveling rounds. So when they penetrate, they get just enough momentum to keep going and bounce around, which is really nasty. Makes for a bad cleanup. But they are not center fire. I think they're called rim fire. If I have that backwards, please tell me. But they're rim fire rounds. I don't know what that means, but center fire are the ones you want, which are like 9mm, 45 ACP, and things like that. The best for home defense, I think, for starting out home defense, like if you've never really fired guns and you want something with manageable recoil, go with a 9mm, because 45s are really lethal, especially if you get like full metal jacket hollow points. One shot, I guarantee you, someone's down for the count. But I'd say 9mm are probably the best because 45s have a lot of recoil, and if you're in a really stressful situation, just trying to take that person down or take them out because you have to, 45s have a lot of recoil, and it is definitely controllable. But if you've bought a gun and you've never fired that round before, which I think everyone that buys a gun should fire it and get used to it, because there's nothing worse than someone's breaking into your house, you have the gun sitting up on a shelf, or you have it in your storage, in your safe, and you've never fired it. You load it up, and then you're like, oh crap, you aim it, click, oh, safety's on, how do I take that? And you're dead, or something like that. I mean, it happens. It's rare, but it happens. So I think getting used to your gun is the best thing you can do. And if you can get used to the gun and manage the recoil, I think any round, whether it's 22, 380, 9mm, 45, 44, 500, 357, whatever round. I don't know who'd use a 500 Magnum for self-defense, but whatever. So I'd say if you've tested the gun but you're still not super comfortable, the best round would be 9mm. And if you're wanting something, if you live in a pretty okay place but you just want something just as backup, M&P 22 compact. I've shot the silenced version and the unsilenced version at Parabellum. They have to rent to shoot at the range, and it is fun and reliable. But it does jam. It sometimes does have an occasional jam, which is what you get out of 22 rounds. 22 rounds tend to jam more than any round, but still a very rare thing for it to jam if you loaded the rounds in properly and treat the gun with care and clean it. You should be good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be posting more gun videos soon. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you have suggestions for more vlogs or videos for me to do, just comment below, let me know, and I will make it happen very soon. Thanks.